This is currently the district museum that opened in 1953. However, that building was built in 1894 and served as the Midland Terminal Depot for the town of Cripple Creek, ran until 1949. All right, guys, we're going to head up to the top of the green. I'll get a chance to talk to you again up there.
That's not EPA compliant at all.
Yes. This should be an electric tank.
Probably, yeah. I was shooting right over the field. I'm getting some use out of this GoPro now. Try to see the train whenever.
We're right next to the top of that hill. Straight down.
Gotta go through a tunnel, right?
You'll see this wooden chute here. That's what's left of the E. Porter King mine. Now all these mines were built in about 1890 and they produced about $8 million worth of gold in their day.
It's there, we just gotta find it. Taking a video of you guys enjoying the train trip.
Thanks, Kenny.
Yeah, you're welcome. Ryan, Justin, taking video of you guys enjoying the train trip here.
It's gonna be on YouTube tomorrow, so
Put it on YouTube. Us guys over here just enjoying the train trip.
Alright folks, this next portion of track is known as the $1 Million Fill. So this used to be a 400-foot long wooden trestle that came through here. However, all the weather and the implements started to erode it, so it's torn down, and it started to get filled in with this low-grade gold ore. Now in today's market, about $1,900 an ounce. There's well more than $1 million worth of gold right here. However, before you guys get all fired up and start stuffing your pockets full of rocks, it's going to take you about 20 tons of this ore just to create about 1 ounce of gold.
Somebody should be doing it.
how big are our pockets?
Yeah,
I feel like
I'll get that big rock right there.
So right here on the right side of the train, you'll start to see a whole bunch of these deep holes here on the side. Now whenever you see those deep holes, you look right across the tracks, you're probably going to see a small mine like you do right here. Now those were all part of the Moffat Tunnel system. They were created by a man named David Moffat, who also built that Moffat Tunnel up in northern Colorado. Now those were designed to be able to tie into a lot of these mines around here as ventilation shafts and also as flood mitigation, but eventually a lot of the miners just started to use those as entrances into the mines that they were in.
You're out of the way.
You gotta get off.
Straight down. I just dropped my gold.
All right, you guys, welcome to our very first stop here along our trek. So especially people here on the right side, please feel free to stand up, look around, take a picture here. So this was known as Squaw Gulch whenever early miners got here in the 1890s, because there was a small Ute tribe that lived just over the hill there. However, it got renamed to Echo Valley. So here, let me show you why we call it Echo Valley.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so I first got to hear that when I rode this train when I moved to this area about 25 years ago, and I promise you it still doesn't get old. Alright, so you can actually hear this whistle about 10 miles up and down this gulch here. And early miners actually used to use a similar steam whistle to be able to communicate to the over 100 mines that were here in the area for things like breaks and shift changes, but also emergencies of fire, stuff like that. which I'll get you another at the end, right? So all the way out there in the distance through that rain and the weather there, you can see, make out the mountain range, the Sangre de Cristo mountain range there. Now, when Spanish explorers were exploring the west, they saw that mountain range right at sunset when there was this beautiful like red hue right behind there. And translated to English, that actually means the blood of Christ there, right? All right, if you guys look straight over from the train there, that black and gold mound of rock there, that is the El Paso mine. Now, the El Paso mine ran from the mid-1890s right up until about World War II. And it is as deep as the Empire State Building is tall, actually, at 1,500 feet deep. And it produced about $13 million worth of gold in its day. Remember, that was back when gold was around $20 an ounce. So it produced a lot of gold there. And it ran until about World War II when it closed down for a little while, reopened as a tourist attraction. And then until they got a fire there in the hoist house in the 70s, and they're closing it for good. Now, it's not the deepest in the area. That is actually out of the old Ajax mine, which is up off of Battle Mountain a few miles over. And it was about 3,350 feet deep. And the richest mine in the area was the Portland mine, which produced about $62 million back in the day, right? So if you take up the El Paso mine, go straight over there to the left, you'll see that wood retaining wall. That's what's left of the Mary McKinney mine. It's only about a third of the size that it once was. And above that, you see that old hoist house up there. That's the original hoist house for the Dr. Jackpot mine. And it was moved here for preservation. Now, out in front of the train, you guys can see that building that looks like it's about to fall off the side of the mountain there. That is the opening to the Chicken Hawk 1 and 2 mines. Now, due to all the volcanic activity here in the area that produced all the gold here, those mine shafts ran about 120 degrees. So they built in a couple shafts to cool them off. Some ventilation shafts, so you can see right down from the housing, you still kind of see one. If you look right before it hits the gravel there, there's a small indentation with a couple small little trees growing out of it next to that telephone pole there. Well, those cooled it off to about 80 degrees year-round. Now, there were 12 towns here in the district, and during the cold evenings, a lot of the homeless folk from around the district used to jump on the train. They'd come over here, they jump off, they go to sleep in there. So to this day, the locals still call those the hobo tunnels as a result, right? All right, so right down here in the bottom of this clearing is actually an old ghost town there. There's really nothing left of it, but that was the town of Barry. Now, it was the cultural center of the area, because like I said, there were 12 towns here in the area, so people used to catch a train, come over here and catch a show, because it was a home to a lot of entertainers. There was musicians and actors and singers, things like that here. Right around the corner, there was another small community called Mound City, and it had maybe 500 or 600 residents in it, and then right in between them, there were 2 gold processing mills. One was called the Rosebud, and the other was the Brody. But in 1904, the Brody actually caught fire, started a raging forest fire that ran all the way up and down the gulch here, destroyed both of those towns, went up into the town of Anaconda, which is about 3/4 of a mile up the track here, destroyed it too. It had about 1,500 residents there. You got to see 2 of the structures that survived, and that was that old blacksmith shop that was on the side of the hill, and the other was the depot down there, our depot. So down here is Highway 67. This is the original railbed of the very first railroad that came in here to the area. And it was a 3-foot narrow gauge railroad called the Florence to Cripple Creek Railroad that started all the way down in Florence, came up through the Phantom Canyon into Victor. Florence is a town about 10 miles east of Canyon City down there, ended up in Cripple Creek. So it's called the Florence to Cripple Creek Railroad. Now, 3-foot narrow gauge railroad is actually more of the standard narrow gauge railroads that you'll find here in the United States, right? This 2-foot narrow gauge railroad that we're on, extremely rare. You find it only in a couple mining communities and also up in New England, but most of the time you're going to find it down in Mexico or in South America or over in Africa, actually, right? Now, this one was so profitable when it was built in December of 1894 that it paid for itself in the very first year of operation. However, in 1912, there ended up being a flash flood up in the Phantom Canyon that destroyed about 9 miles of that track, and anywhere between 11 to 18 of the bridges through there, depending on which historian you talk to here in the area. And so they shut it down because there are 2 other railroads here in the area already. One was the Midland Terminal that we're on now, and the other one was the Short Line. So if anybody ever drives on the Gold Camp Road that connects us with Colorado Springs, that was the railbed of the Short Line Railroad. And the most famous person to ride that railroad would be President Teddy Roosevelt during his presidency when he was exploring out west, and he actually got to name Yellowstone as a national park and Yosemite and all that stuff that we learned about. He rode the shoreline over here and explored some of the mines here in the area. All right, guys, we're going to back up to our next stop, which is the World's Fair Mine, and we're going to get a chance to talk about this current Cripple Creek and Victor Gold Mine.
But I guess it can't come off the rails.
I guess not.
A lot of information.
I'm gonna sell this footage to the news channels for the lightning.
Yeah. You got a couple of them in your video there.
Definitely
Bet the locals never get tired of that.
down around the
Yeah.
mountain here.
Yeah. Excavator over here on the other side.
Still doing some mining.
Yeah, it wouldn't work that well today.
That was a really old excavator. Like Komatsu in the 1800s.
Yeah, it's original to the time. 1993.
Alright guys, right here on the right hand side you'll see that man-made mountain there. That is actually the home of the current Cripple Creek and Victor Gold Mine that opened in 1995. Now if you had got here about 15-20 years ago, that mountain wasn't even there before. Used to be an old gold processing mill right there, and Highway 67 ran right where that mountain is now. Now when you guys came into town from Divide on Highway 67 up top of Cripple Creek, there on the left hand side you can see that large open pit mine up there. That is actually the largest open pit mine in all of North America. And if you want to know a little bit more about it, they actually built an overlook up there. If you go by the Molly Kathleen mine and take a right up there, there's an overlook that you step up on and you look right down into that open pit mine. But what they'll do over there is they blast that rock, they crush it, they grind it up, mix it with a little bit of lime, come over here and they'll build these leach pads where they lay down 2 large pieces of plastic, build up those mounds there. And what looks like it's wet there on the side is actually not from all the thunderstorms we've had here in the area over the last couple weeks. That is actually a water cyanide irrigation solution that they run down the side of the hill there, and it actually divides up all the ore from the other organic materials. So currently, they mine about 80% gold, 20% silver, and just a little bit of platinum every once in a while. And their goal is to be able to pour about 200,000 ounces of gold every single year. And last year, they actually got 250,000 ounces of gold. So at $1,900 an ounce, I think they do okay for themselves up there, right? Yeah. They have a little over 800 employees there, making them the largest employer here in Taylor County. Now, one of those employees pours gold for them, and he's a buddy of mine that I've known for a long time, and he's worked there since the 90s. And he says that from 1995 until the present, they still have not poured as much gold as they did during that initial gold rush from 1890 until about World War II. And those guys, those old miners, were really great at being able to find that high-grade gold ore. And they left these guys with nothing but a lot of that low-grade gold ore like we talked about at the $1 million field there. So they got to work for it. All right, so during that initial gold rush from 1890 until about World War II, they produced about 22 million ounces of gold. And about $800 million came out of this area, and they produced 30 millionaires as a result of all of that gold rush. They actually called it the $3 gold rush because all these miners were paid about $3.50 a day to be able to work here. Now, you can thank all these miners around here for your 8-hour workday, because there was a time when the miners here tried to force them to turn it from an 8-hour workday to a 9-hour workday without increasing their pay. So they went on strike, and the federal government came in here and said, "Now you can't do that, you guys. 8-hour days is all it is, or a 40-hour work week, right? Other than that, you got to earn a little bit of overtime." Right back here behind us is Echo Valley. You can't really see it now because it's raining and some of you guys are covered up by those aspen trees. By the way, this is one of the top 5 aspen groves in all of Colorado, so if you can come into this area in late September, this place is gorgeous. All these trees turn into golds and oranges and a little bit of reds, and on top of all the mountains, so it's really pretty. All right, but down in the bottom of that canyon, there is a road that connects us to Canyon City. Now, most people would say it would be a shortcut because it's 25 miles long, but it's going to take you every bit of an hour and a half to get all the way down there to Canyon City, because it is a 1-lane, 2-way dirt road. And it's not for the faint of heart, you guys. You have to have a little sense of adventure, and you got to be okay with some heights, because it's called a shelf road, and it is actually like learning how to drive on a shelf, right? So, if you're got a little sense of adventure, that is the road for you, because those views down there are amazing. But I suggest that you drive down it so you're up against the mountain rather than drive up here, because for some reason they built the pull-offs on the side of the hill where it drops off to about 400 feet with no guardrail to let all the traffic by, which is weird. However, it started out as an old stagecoach road, and for 50 cents you could get on the stagecoach down there, come all the way up here to Cripple Creek, and they charge you a quarter to get off of it, right? It was also used by the Pony Express, and they could get the mail from Canyon City up here to Cripple Creek in about a day. Now with all the sorting technology and amazing transportation we got, we're lucky if we can get it between 3 days and a week. You guys know what I mean? If you look right back there towards Cripple Creek's only home to about 1,200 people now. But back in its day, during that original gold rush, there were more than 25,000 people that lived here, believe it or not. Now, when you're around town, if you can pay attention to some of the local casinos and some of the restaurants, they have old photos of this town. This place was littered with homes. But when World War I broke out, a lot of these miners left the area to go to war, so the housing market dropped. And you could pick up these houses for about $150 a piece. So some real estate developers down in Old Colorado City came up here, purchased all those homes, and dismantled them, took them back down to Colorado Springs and built a bunch of the neighborhoods down there, actually. All right, guys, we're going to head back up towards Cripple Creek. As we go through this switch here, on the left-hand side, you'll see that large cement pad. It's actually the opening to the World's Fair mine. throw it up in the air wherever it landed, grab their pickaxes and shovels and just start digging. Dig down about 10, 15 feet, take that rock down to the mill and test for gold. If there was gold in it, it became one of the over 100 finds here in the area. However, there are about 5,000 of those unlucky prospect holes around here, and if anybody's dug in the Rockies, you'll know what I'm talking about. There's also around 3,000 miles of tunnel system that connected all those over 100 mines. Early miners used to be able to drop down in Victor, be able to walk all the way over here to Cripple Creek, never coming above ground. If you still want to see one of those, you might ask one of the high school kids around here. I think they know how to explore those.
Definitely be what I do. She moved here in the 1800s at the age of 12 and lived back there in the town of Barry with her dad and her brother. However, she went to medical school back at the University of Michigan and came back to the area. And between here and Granby was really well known for being able to reattach severed limbs of the railway workers and the miners here. You might remember her best by the TV show they wrote about her, and that'd be Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman. Some of those old homes that were built in the 1890s, 1900s there. Believe it or not, a lot of these homes were just ordered straight out of the old Sears and Roebuck catalog. One big room and a wood stove. That's all you need.
Fixer upper there for you, Chris. Having up there, they solve it through. Turn that into another one of your rental properties. Tiny house. Airbnb.
You'll probably get 3 months out of your trip.
I don't know, it's a ski country, ain't it? They can,
There was order around here.
can get somebody to make a goes down one of these hills and smooth it out.
Right down there in the bottom of the hill, you see that old wall there? It's all that's left of the Grand Opera House. Now, it contained about 1,500 people there in its heyday. A couple of the cool things that happened here is the very first indoor rodeo happened there. Also, Jack Dempsey, former boxing heavyweight champion in the world, fought his very first fight there because he was a gold miner over in the gold coin mine over in Victor. Alright, third and final stop. So if you guys were to look over Cripple Creek in the early 1890s, this town would probably look a lot like those old Western movies that I used to watch with my dad when I was a kid.
where all these buildings were made out of wood and the sidewalks are made out of wood and all these streets are made out of dirt. Well, this street closest to this is known as Myers Avenue. Now, it was known as one of the rowdiest red light districts in all the Old West, actually. Imagine that with 20,000 miners here, right? Had about 70 saloons and honky-tonks on it here. Also had about 35 parlor houses. Now, the most famous of those parlor houses is this white building with the red sign here on it. Now, it was ran by Madame Pearl de Beer. It's called the Old Homestead there. So Madame Pearl de Beer was actually pretty particular about the people she let into her establishment. She did a bit of a background check on you, checked your bank account, and if you're not of a certain esteem, albeit like one of the mine owners around here or one of the businessmen, you were not allowed in her establishment, and let's be honest, you probably couldn't afford it either, right? So, in 1897, actually July the 22nd of 1897, she passed away from an accidental morphine overdose at the age of 30. Now, most people around here will say it's because she was trying to self-medicate for the common cold, but there's some other people who said they had a really wild little night there one night, and, you know, things happened. So whenever her family got into town from her home state of Indiana, they found out that she was not the seamstress she told everybody that she was, right? And they disowned her and refused to pay for her funeral. However, she was well respected around town for what she did for a lot of what's fortunate here, and there were some generous donations by some of the town folk to pay for her funeral. And in fact, the Old Elks Club put together a 12-member marching band that led a funeral procession all the way up there to the Pisgah Cemetery, playing "It's Gonna Be a Hot Time in the Old Town Tonight," all the way up there just for old Madame Pearl. Every July 22nd, we still celebrate her every year. If you'd have been here last weekend, you would have saw a lot of ladies around town here dressed up as old Madame Pearl de Beer. There were 5,000 people that went to her funeral, still the largest funeral in the history of Cripple Creek. Now, in April of 1897, there were a set of fires that happened in just within a couple days of each other, decimated the town here. The first one happened in one of the local saloons when a barmaid and her boyfriend got into a bit of an argument. Somehow they kicked over kerosene lanterns, started a fire, burned down about a third of the town. Now, a couple days later, there was a grease fire in the kitchen of the Portland Hotel that burnt down almost all the rest of the town. One of the only buildings to survive is this red and white building here, the Colorado Trading and Transfer Company. They used to trade dry goods out of there. So shortly after that, there was a city ordinance that mandated that any building built in the business district, which is now Bennett Avenue, home to all those casinos, or one block either side, had to be constructed out of brick, and that's why you see all these brick buildings here. And most of them are going to be time-stamped 1896, because most of those buildings on Bennett Avenue were rebuilt by December of 1896. That's how efficient the people were here. In 8 months, they were able to almost reconstruct this entire town. So Myers Avenue used to run under a large wooden trestle here, up into what is known as Poverty Gulch there. Now, Poverty Gulch was named by a local rancher here named Bob Womack. Now, he came into the area in the 1880s to run a ranch here because he had heard that somebody had discovered gold up there on Mount Pisgah, and he had the itch for gold, so he went searching for it. And he actually found gold in 1890, and he named it the El Paso Lode. And it is all about 2 miles up the gulch here. So when we get back into the station, if you look up to the left right there by those aspen trees up there, you'll be able to see the old the hoist house there. Now, after he discovered gold, my boy Bob was known to tie one on every once in a while, okay? So Bob went down to Colorado Springs to celebrate discovering gold, and he went on a 3-day bender. And he woke up and realized that he had sold that El Paso Lode up there for $500 and 2 cases of whiskey. Now, in 1890, $500 was a lot of money. However, the new owners renamed it the Gold King Mine and pulled out $3 million worth of gold out of there. You know, Bob actually died in 1910. Never struck it rich here. He lived down with his sister in Colorado Springs, actually. All right, guys, right down here in the bottom between these two pairs of tracks here is all that's left of the original Cripple Creek, believe it or not. Used to be an old creek that ran all the way down Poverty Gulch. There's a real steady stream. It got dammed up a long time ago to build a reservoir way up there above the mine. And it used to run all the way down Poverty Gulch in parallel with Myers Avenue. Now, there was a local rancher here in the late 1860s named Levi Welty, who his ranch was out there by the town of Berry, actually, right? So during the spring runoff, when the snow was melting and this thing got pretty violent and real high, he was leading his cows across that creek One of his cows stepped down in there, broke its leg, and one of his sons ran in after it to save the cow. He broke his ankle, and old Levi says, well, this is one gosh darn Cripple Creek. Right? And that's exactly how we got the name. Well, at least that's the way I heard it, right? All right, you guys, we're going to head up into Poverty Gulch. We're going to back down into the station. Hey, thank you guys for driving with me. When we do get back to the station, if you guys got any questions about the mine or the town of Cripple Creek, any of the history or the engine, please come see me. Would love to chat with you guys about that. Also, enjoy the town of Cripple Creek, you guys. Appreciate you.
We're doing your job for you.
I got it. You're a busy guy.
That round one. All right, so the round one is just You said something about it. What was the name of that one thing? Redbird? Oh, the Redbird mine. There's the Yellowbird mine. How did you get the name? Yeah, the Redbird mine. The Yellowbird was on this side of the train. Yeah.
Más para allá. Ayan yung sinod, oh.